Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we're hearing that Mr. Mike Brown, who I thought was the best coaching candidate for this Knicks team, he's coming to town. They basically were only interviewing San Antonio Spurs former executive or not executive coaches, Mike Brown, Taylor Jenkins, James Borrego, and Leon Rose, team president, underwent the process. The Knicks requested permission from 5 coaches, Shams Charania says, and they were denied from all of them. And this is a 4-time champion as a top assistant in Golden State and San Antonio's, worked under Steve Kerr and Gregg Popovich, and has been with a myriad of teams. He coached the Kings to the best offense in the league, then said, hey, next season, let's sacrifice some of this top offense to be one of a better defense. And they ended up being able to slowly improve every year as a defensive coach or as a defensive team. Now, obviously, wasn't great. In 3 seasons with Sacramento, he had a 54.9% winning record, and he went 195 to 107. Before that, he had 59.2% as the Lakers coach in 2 seasons, and in 6 seasons with the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron James. And then after LeBron, he was a 62% winning coach. And that's also including a season where he came back the year before LeBron came, and they went 33-49 when they were actually starting to try to win. And he's someone that's always been accredited as a defensive-minded coach, but I think he's one of the more legit offensive-minded guys. He can coach both sides of the ball. That's what he's done. And to me, he's a guy that I know people are like saying, oh, you're going to talk yourself into Mike Brown being an okay choice. But like, this is a guy who a lot of people act like he's not a good coach. Some people act like he's not. But I think he's come a long way since the Cavs. And to me, this is a huge situation. The general vibe to me is that he is a coach that is a no-nonsense. I know he comes from a lineage of, Gregg Popovich, a no-nonsense, will call people out. But maybe this is what they want, because this is a team where Mike Brown, who is they were a 3-point shooting team, and they just weren't good defensively. But they weren't good defensively, the Kings, because of the personnel. So that wasn't really Mike Brown's thing. He lost the locker room because he was trying to challenge guys who aren't good defensively to play defense, and he was just really tough on them. So I'm not saying it was smart that they fired Tibbs, but I also don't want to be saying here that like, oh, Mike Brown's the greatest coach that they could have gotten. I just think that Taylor Jenkins was the developmental coach. James Borrego has never actually really had playoff experience, and he's the only coach outside of there that isn't Michael Malone, who Michael Malone's way too similar to Tom Thibodeau to actually have somebody who's going to be, in terms of coaching terms, consistency, has the experience, widely respected, help bring back a Kings team from irrelevancy. And as a coach, he allegedly lost the locker room trying to get them to buy in on defense after nurturing their offensive, improvements. This is a team that if the coach can, make in-game adjustments, tell his team to buy in, tinker with the rotations, and be someone who can help elevate this roster, then Mike Brown is perfect in my opinion. Now, what should we make of this? Is this like worth it in my opinion? I mean, it depends on. I think you needed somebody who was going to be able to come in here and deliver some sort of championship aspiration. And bringing in Mike Brown gives you championship aspirations or experience as someone who, yes, he lost in the finals that he coached, but at least he's been able to coach the finals. Hey, Tom Thibodeau had never done that. And I talked about this, that they needed to bring in a coach who had done that. And I think that was always the biggest thing to me, was finding a coach that they believed that was going to be able to do that. And in my opinion, Mike Brown is that sort of coach. And whether you think he's, too tough on guys or he's the type of coach you want, I think for a team like the Knicks, that they're not at a luxury to be picking, being selective about their coach. They need a coach that'll get them to the promised land, or what they believe is the promised land, which is a championship. And they were someone who they didn't have creative ingenuity when it came to their offense, and that was more so a result of Tom Thibodeau not really being a defense. I mean, he's a great defensive coach, but outside of defense, he's not really the most offensive, insightful coach. And I think when you bring in a guy like a Mike Brown, he's more even keel. He'll also have better assistants to help delegate. And to me, I think that's one of those things where people aren't going to realize how impactful that can be until they see it in action. And with how everything has gone on with the Knicks and how we saw them crumble at times, especially the offense stagnate, and Tom Thibodeau not making the in-game adjustments that you would want to see from a coach. And I think with Mr. Mike Brown, you might be getting a guy that, yeah, he's going to do that. He's going to call out his boys and hold them accountable and make sure that they're playing their best ball every single time. And that's something that this Knicks team need. Okay. So to me, I think the Knicks, when you see a team like this get a new coach, especially with a roster that, let's just pull up what their stats were in terms of, I mean, I like the depth that they brought in. I think Jordan Clarkson's going to give them some scoring off the bench. Gershon Yabusele's huge. Mike Brown's going to love that. They have Deuce McBride. They have Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges. They just need to figure out how Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns are going to be figured out defensively. Are they going to keep Mitchell Robinson, who Mitchell Robinson is huge for them? They still have Tyler Kolek, Hakom, Ariel Huckporty, and look, like I think this is a squad that obviously they have talent. And the thing with the Knicks, if you look at their whole weakness, again, besides offense stagnation, I think the biggest thing to me was always going to be, look, they were a team that was ranked 14th in defensive rating, 5th in offensive rating. However, in the playoffs, they also just, this team was depleted depth wise. So we know Precious isn't coming back. Hopefully Landry Shamet it comes back. And their current rotation, which, like, I think there's a lot more defensive options with everybody there. If we don't know if Duaro's coming, but Ariel Huckporty, Mitchell Robinson, Karl Anthony Towns, and Gershon Yabusele make their front court. Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson make out the rest of the front starting unit next to Towns. Deuce McBride, Jordan Clarkson, Tyler Kolek, Gershon Yabusele, and Mitchell Robinson are the first 5 guys you'd assume off the bench. And then the 10 through 13, or I guess it would be 11, 12, and 13. Hakom, I guess it would be Diawara, Huckporty. I would like that if they brought back McCullough and Beauchamp, and then I know McCullough can be brought back on a 2-way. That's what I think about that. I think this is this decent team.